All right, everyone. Welcome once again. It is Friday. What does that mean? It's time for manufacturing e-commerce success. And boy, I am excited today because we're going to be talking about developing practical solutions to exceed your goals. I'm David Pistolka. I'm one of your co-hosts here. I'm not nearly as pretty as that guy right over there, Curtis Anderson, the other co-host. Woo! Take it away, Kurt.
I don't know, Damon. You're pretty humble, dude. I think you're much, much prettier. But anyway,
Not even.
That's what your mom told me. She said, I have the prettiest son on the planet. So I don't know if if you're comfortable with that, but I know you're manly enough to accept that one. So Damon, what an honor. What a privilege. Best time of the week, man. Just, Fridays.
Yeah, hanging out, doing it.
12:30 Eastern time. I know we've got 9:32 Pacific time where you're at your side of the world. So I am just honored, thrilled, and I'm just ecstatic beyond belief to introduce my dear friend, Michael Riegel. Michael, happy Friday. How are you, dude?
I'm doing great. Friday is just like, it's the perfect time, right? Everyone can relax a little bit. We can have a little bit of a conversation. I've pushed everything off my desk. So it's I am yours for the next 45 minutes. So I'm excited.
All right. Well, let's make it happen, man. So guys, happy Friday. Welcome to the program. For our friends out there, drop us a note. Let us know that let us know where you're coming from. Let us know that you're here. And of course, you want to connect with Michael. You will thank us later. Connect with Michael on LinkedIn. He is just a dynamo, and we've got tons to unpack. We might talk about a little bit of engineering, how you and Damon kicked off your background in engineering. We might talk a little bit of baseball, Damon. Just, we are baseball.
Maybe a little bit.
We might talk a little baseball, but we're going to talk about helping entrepreneurs to hit their goals. Michael, to kick things off, I have the first question for you, my friend. It doesn't look like you're sitting down. You're not sitting down for this one, are you?
No, I'm standing.
All right, dude.
He's moving. He's ready to go.
Hang on to the desk. You better hang on to the desk for this question. Are you ready, my friend? Here we go.
I'm ready. Hit me.
Michael is a New Yorker, Damon, by the way. Full-blown, just through and through New Yorker. And just what a fierce entrepreneur, great dad. And we're going to get into his business partner is, I think he's married to her. I'm not positive, but we'll get into that in a minute.
We are married 25 years.
25 years. Congratulations.
Woo!
Dude, we both celebrated our 25th. That's right. Around the same time this year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Michael, when you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero?
So I'm going to separate into two because one is a sports hero, right?
I'm you know what? I'm going to write it down before you say it.
Let's just see if it were right, Kurt. Write it down.
All right. So and I'll preface it by saying I'm 56 going on 57, so it gives you the right. And I'm a New Yorker, so for me, the guy who I always loved as a kid, Thurman Munson.
Woo! Thurman Munson. I knew you were going there, brother. I knew you were going there. So for anybody under the age of 50, who on earth is Thurman Munson?
Thurman Munson. Well, to me, Thurman Munson was the glue. He was the guy who was essential in the New York Yankees' success in the late 1970s. But he was the guy who, as much of a star as he was the guy who was getting dirty, right? At the end of every game, his uniform was dirty, and he played catcher. And I think that without knowing it at that time, he was the central, right? The catcher is the only one who sees every other player on the field.
Right.
And for him, or for any catcher, really, they are the ones who are really coordinating things and see everything. And I think that, so from that perspective, I can look back now and understand why I kind of gravitated to him. Yeah. But he was gruff. He was hard-nosed. He got into it, and he made everybody else perform better. So from a sports perspective, that was sort of my guy. And the easy answer is my dad, but I would say and my dad was very influential. My mom was probably more influential on me than my dad was because she and I were much more aligned personality-wise. Yeah. So, but yeah, from a sports perspective, he was the guy I looked up to, and I think that as you ask me the question now, I can look back on it and go, oh, make some sense.
Yeah. So, all right, Damon, how about that for an answer? I knew you were going to go there. I had a feeling if you grew up a diehard Yankee fan in the 70s, like Michael and I did, Thurman Munson. So for young folks out there, you can just Google it. Thurman Munson. Yep. He was the captain of the New York Yankees baseball team. He was fierce. He was rugged. He was just, man, he was just a bad dude. And tragically died flying. He was from Kent, Ohio, or in that area. And he was flying. I can tell you exactly where I was standing when I was informed that poor Thurman Munson died in a plane crash. It was tragic, but a great role model. And I love that you went there, Michael. And how about,
let me add one more thing to it, because Kurt, you and I have talked a lot about being fathers and connections to family. He was learning how to fly a plane because he wanted to be able to get back to his family on weekend, on off days. On off days, in New York, he can get to Ohio, private plane, and he figured if I can learn how to fly, I can get to Ohio and back for the next game. And so, in his effort to really being dedicated to his family, ended up tragically getting killed in a plane crash.
Great story. Tragic ending. Great story. Phenomenal example. Michael, and I know we have a ton to unpack. I want to talk about mom for 1 minute. Just share a little bit, some influence that mom and dad had on you as a young guy growing up that kind of paved the path for you as, as a parent, as an entrepreneur, coach. Let's go there for a minute.
So the funny thing is, I'm an entrepreneur now. I spent 30 plus years in corporate. And so I sort of joke sometimes that I'm an accidental entrepreneur.
Yes.
I never expected to become an entrepreneur. I never expected to work for myself. I had no examples of that. Right. My dad was a school principal, retired at 52, and then went to law school. So he had a whole nother career.
At 52.
At 52. Wow, that's cool. He is 86 and still works full time.
Rock and roll.
Right. Absolutely. He loves what he does. Right. Yeah. He loves what he does. Yeah. Of course, he's got no hobbies, right? He doesn't play golf. He doesn't play cards. He doesn't go fishing. Yeah. He's got, his work is his passion.
Yeah.
And my mom, was a school teacher and was home with us when we were kids. So I had no example of entrepreneurs in my family, which is why it probably was never something I even considered growing up. Yeah. But work ethic was the piece that was ingrained in us. Both my older sister and my younger brother were all kind of sort of hardwired the same way in terms of work ethic. My dad worked 2 jobs. My mom, once my younger brother was in school, was working. So we saw the work ethic that they put in. And that was the part that they didn't teach us. They just sort of led by example. And that has been something that I know that I've carried forward with my kids. So my daughter, I've got 22-year-old twins. My daughter is the next generation of entrepreneur. And having graduated from college, she is now running her own business too.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, Damon, I told you this was going to be a good one. So, all right, guys, we're just getting started. If you just joined us, we're here with Michael Riegel, and please drop us a note. Let us know that you're out there. Connect with Michael on LinkedIn. We've got so much to unpack. Michael's just, humble, brilliant, and just what an inspiration we're going to get into. Michael, let's go there. So we got Thurman Munson, mom and dad. Mom and dad's name, by the way?
My mom is Joan, and my dad is Arthur.
Joan and Arthur. And Damon, I know you love this. And so Damon's mom, she went after, later in life, raised her kids. She went and got her PhD. And so, this is such an inspiration to hear about, Arthur going to get his law degree later in life and everything that your mom did. So love this. Michael, let's go here. As you come out of college, you decide you get into like this full-blown corporate career. I can't rattle off everybody, but like New York City Department of Transportation, HNTB. I saw that you were at National Grid. All just a wealth of corporate experience that you had. Take us through that path, like big, maybe mentors or the successes, challenges, failures, not to get too deep, but let's go there because I want to lead up to everybody how you got into your entrepreneurial career. But let's hear your journey through up until that point.
So for better or worse, I seem to have always graduated right into a recession. Which
and as we went online, you shared engineering, right? You started you went as an engineer, and so I think we're all three of us are right within the same age, so we're right there with you, brother. So let's talk about those recessions.
Yeah, so I graduated into a recession. Friend of the family got me an internship working at New York City Department of Transportation, doing something totally left field. I was doing special events planning for New York City Department of Transportation for almost a full year, which sounds totally incongruous, but Department of Transportation owns the streets. Right. So in 1992, we had all the regular stuff that happens in New York, the marathons, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade,
St. Patrick's Day,
all the parades.
Yeah.
We also had the Democratic National Convention.
Yep.
And we had the 500th anniversary of Columbus. So they were these monumental events. Yeah. And then throw into it, we had a promoter that wanted to have a Formula One race in Lower Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
So this is of course pre 9/11. They wanted to do the Formula One race essentially around the World Trade Center. It was just phenomenal. So I started to meet all these oddball characters, and started to get like really interesting, different kind of experience that I never had anticipated. Right. So I anticipated going to work for a construction company, or doing something like that. So I ended up at Department of Transportation for a little while, and then I went to work full time for a company that was doing engineering work. We were doing transportation planning, and I had a great boss. So my boss there, I had great bosses, but one of the owners of the company, a guy named Marty Taub, who was just phenomenal. I mean, he was open door policy, great as a mentor. This goes back 30, almost 35 years. I still have a relationship with him 35 years later. Nice. And we used to tease him because he would edit our reports with a felt tip pen, right? You remember the old felt tip pens?
Yep.
So he would edit with a felt tip pen. I felt like I was going to English class again.
Right.
But for us with a technical engineering background, he came at it from sort of that sort of end of things, made me a much better writer, much better communicator. I probably really started to understand then, very early on, that I was going to move away from the real technical work and move towards, I don't want to just call it soft skills, but working with people, working with clients, working with, the ownership piece, because that's where my mind naturally went, right? Damon and I were talking a little bit about the value of an engineering degree. And I know lots of engineers who don't do any engineering, but the discipline that is driven into you in an engineering program is invaluable, because it makes you think in a structured, linear, logical manner. Yeah. So as I started to move along in my career, I moved further away from the technical and closer to managing teams, building teams, doing marketing, presentations, all that kind of stuff, and getting involved in managing the business end of the business, in addition to, sort of the project management, program management, client relationship kind of stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I love it. And
we got
some comments here, Dan.
We got a lot of comments here. So
here,
I'll start at the beginning, because we got a lot of people just saying hello. We got Kartiki, we got Bishwal, Gaurav, Ahmed.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday. Gift. Ahmed again. But Brian comes up with a question here.
Yeah. I love it. Let's hit this. And so we're going to dive in. So Michael's going to share his, vast corporate experience and how he brought that corporate experience. And I'll tell you what's great. I have a life, my entire career has been small business. I have zero corporate experience. And so the nice thing is, a guy like you, that you can take all, these mentors, leaders, good, bad, everything that you've gone through, Michael, and then you can bring them to your clients now, these small businesses. We're going to dive into that. But you described as the accidental entrepreneur, and you are an amazing dad. 2 kids, just graduated from college, huge success. Let's take a look. Our friend Brian. Brian's up in Toronto. Brian, happy Friday, my friend. Having a 20-month-old son, I'm curious, what is one lesson you want to share with fellow entrepreneurs and a fellow dad? What's the most valuable advice you've passed on to your entrepreneur children? And his wife, Michael's wife, Deb, is just a fierce entrepreneur. I know your daughter is just Damon, you're going to be blown away. Your daughter's an incredible entrepreneur. But how would you answer that question for Brian, Michael? What would you say there?
That's a great question. So I think part of it is there's a work ethic that comes with it, right? That we just work hard, right? It's like you're an entrepreneur, you work hard, and the rewards come back to you. But I will say, having a young son, there is one thing, no matter how much money you have, you cannot buy, and that's time. Yeah. So, right, the idea of sacrificing certain amount of time to make a little bit more money, right? This comes from my coaching perspective, right? When I work with clients, right? What's important to you, right? So if the important part is you want to grow your business, but you want to also have that time with your family, you want to make sure that you're having an impact there as well. The money will always be there, right? You can grow the business, but I would say not to sacrifice that time, early on, because you can never get it back, right? No matter how much money you make, you can't you can't buy more time, you can't manufacture time, right? Once it's gone, it's gone.
Great answer, Michael. Damon, you're a phenomenal father, 2 adult children.
You got to do it. You got to do it because you got to do it because you need to understand that when, at 20 months, there's some special times there, and it's not gonna be there long. And they'll be in grade school, then they'll be in high school, then they'll be in college before you know it. And you can easily work that time away and never get to see them. Yeah. And then one of the things that I'm most thankful for in my life was being able to step back from the corporate career and spend more time with my family, even though it's, financially it's probably not the best decision, but long term, like you said, Michael, that will come back around. That will all be what it needs to be in the end. It's just that time.
That's a great answer. And, I had the honor and privilege. My father was an entrepreneur. And so, and he became an entrepreneur when I was a teenager and just really kind of shaped, myself. I was heavily involved with him in a business. So Brian, I encourage you, welcome you, get those kids working young, right, Michael? Because that is your future retirement plan. That's why you have children in the first place. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So, Michael, let's dig back in. So, leading up to your accidental entrepreneurial career, were there times through your career where you're like, man, I wonder, could I be an entrepreneur? Or was that never on your radar? Was there a tipping point, an aha moment? 2018, what happened?
So it's an interesting story. So as you were mentioning, so my wife, Deborah, is an entrepreneur. She's had her own company since 2004. So we're going on almost 20 years with her company. Nice. And we now, we work together. It's all one company now. Yep. And I always was running the business side of her business. So, right. So even though I was working full-time in corporate, I kind of had a half-time job managing her company, and the finances and the, all that kind of stuff. So I think couple periods happened in my career. One was 2012. I got laid off, which happens, right? It's like, for no fault of anybody's own, right? It happens sometimes. The company I was working for was going through, they were being acquired by somebody else. They were looking to just slash headcount. And sometimes you find yourself on the outside looking in, then you got to figure out what to do. So in that period, after I got laid off, that's when I went to coaching school. I started to do a little bit of training and consulting and some coaching work. So I had dipped my toe in the water, always figuring I was going to go back into corporate. I went back into corporate for a couple of years after that. I got hunted down. They hunted me down. It was like I got hired to manage a small business development program for the Transportation Authority in New York. And we had 300 small trade construction contractors who wanted to grow and get involved in their capital program. And they found me because I must have had just the right mix of what they were looking for. I understood the business. I understood the business side. I understood their mentality. I understood how to interact and how to train them and then give them the consulting and business support they needed. So it was just like the perfect combination of circumstances. And they hunted me down. I get a phone call one day and they're like, "We need you to run this program." I did it for about 2 years or so. And then realized that there were much greater opportunities doing this on my own, both as a coach, both as a business coach, as a trainer, working with both large and small companies in the construction and engineering and architecture space. So that's sort of two sort of pivotal moments. One, getting laid off, which I will tell you was devastating at the time. It is a huge blow to your ego. And there should be no shame attached to it. But as men, we don't like to ask for help ever.
Ever.
And there's a lot of shame attached to that kind of an experience, because we're sort of hardwired to be the providers in our family. And when you're not, all of a sudden your identity is like, well, what am I? Who am I? And that's really hard as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that experience. So let's dive in. How'd you fly the flag for your business?
Oh, the business I've got now?
Yep.
It's probably like everything else with business. It's about relationships, right? I had 30 years of working with people who knew who I was, knew what I was about, what I was trying to do, but at a much sort of baser level, they understood my integrity. They understood the nature that, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I think that's part of what makes small businesses success. Any business really, but certainly small businesses where the identity of the business is really attached to the owner or the founder. That personal integrity goes a long way towards being able to do business with people, because right in business, people like to do work with people they know and people they trust. And when they trust you, that goes a long way towards being successful. And people will give you they'll give you some grace if they know that you are trustworthy. Things go wrong in business. Things always go wrong in business. There's no way of avoiding some of that stuff. But if you're honest and you've got integrity and you're upfront with people, that goes a long way. So the launch for me into the work I do now was really around relationships and people understanding that I provided value and that I was good to my word.
Okay.
Yeah.
On our program, we have these things we call mic drop moments, and then when you surpass the mic drop moment, then we just call it like the moment of silence. Like, dude, you went flying right past through the mic drop, and we just went through the moment of silence. So it's lunchtime in the East Coast, and whatever time zone you're in, maybe it's dinner time. We've got some friends coming from other countries across the pond, but dude, that was Damon. We've had a lot of brilliant comments here, and Michael, I just love how you summarized that. Based on my integrity, man. If you're just joining us, go back and play that over and over. I think that's going to be our little snippet of this interview right here. Is people knew my integrity. You had 30 years that you stuck to your word and like you built a business. So Brian, you want advice for your, anybody out there wants advice for their children? There it was right there. It was just work ethic you've talked about, that time, and I love what you said, Michael. People will give you grace, right? There's always mistakes that happen. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because I want to get back to your brilliance. Okay, let's dive in. You help technical leaders thrive and partner with business owners to support and engage their teams. That's kind of your tagline right now. And everybody's just kind of getting a taste of this. Let's slide in. As a coach, what are some problems that you see? What are some challenges? Let's talk about like how are you making the world a better place with your superpowers? What are you helping folks with?
So it's funny you talk about superpowers. So like I'm, and you probably know, I'm pretty humble. I don't think of it as being right. I don't think it's being anything so special. I go,
he's like, really good. They already know, Michael. They already know.
So I think, so I gravitate toward working with technical professionals, and that encompasses a whole swath of people who are out there. I get the people who are process driven, the people who are linear thinkers, right? Not just engineers, but folks across all industries. But their challenges are the same as everybody else's challenges, right? It very often comes down to managing and leading teams, communications, being clear, being transparent, getting the most out of your teams. How do you lead and motivate? These are the challenges that most emerging leaders have, even existing leaders have, because for the most part, none of us were really taught to be managers or leaders, right? We just got thrown into the deep end of the pool, and the ones who figured out how to doggy paddle were the ones who survived. So I never, even going to business school, you don't really learn how to lead until you get thrown into the environment and you go, oh, I got to figure out how do I deal with this guy who's got a difficult personality, or he doesn't want to do something, and how do you start to navigate that? So I work with a lot of leaders who are uncomfortable in that space. So part of what I do is I work with them on getting comfortable. Sometimes it's about having those difficult conversations. It's about performance. It could be about, attitude. It could be about, about a lot of things, but there are lots of people who are conflict avoidant. They don't want to have those difficult conversations. That's not about technical professionals. That's just people.
Everyone.
That is just people who don't really want to have those difficult, challenging conversations. And no one ever taught them, how do you have a conversation where you can challenge somebody without it being challenging? And I think that's the line that leaders and managers have to walk, because you can't just push people. I grew up in an environment, working on job sites where a job superintendent or a foreman, their communication style was described based on the volume and the number of 4-letter words they could use. And it had nothing to do with whether the person was doing a good job. It was just that was the way they were raised as well. We're starting to see a different sort of mentality that's coming into at least into my industry. Part of that is you're getting people who are coming from college environments as opposed to coming ground up from having worked in the field and then moving up into management. And that may be sort of the same thing you're seeing from a manufacturing perspective as well. If the dynamic was that, or the path in the past was, you worked on an assembly line and then you became a manager and you came off the assembly line and then you became that may have been the career path, but no one ever taught you about the communications piece that had to go along with it. And the same thing is evident in the construction industry, the engineering space, and for technical leaders to recognize that there are a whole host of communication styles, of personality types, that you have to start to modulate your message in order to get the best out of the individuals, because at the end of the day, a conversation is generally between two people.
Yeah.
Could be a couple more, but generally it's sort of a one-to-one interaction. And if you are looking for somebody on your team to improve, you've got to figure out a way to interact with them in a way where they can hear the message in the way that you need them to hear the message. And that's a much different skill set than we learned in engineering school or business school or any place else.
Okay.
Another
moment of silence number 2. That was that. So, and I tried writing it down. You said how to have those challenging conversations without being challenging. Is that how you said that?
Yeah. Yeah.
How to have challenging conversations. Boy, what a skill set. Talk about a superpower. If you could have that, that is a superpower right there. So this is a great conversation. Michael, let's go here. Blind spots. Okay. And in what I'm hearing are kind of like, is the world kind of changing, or maybe like that rough and gruff and like, I'm going to lead by loudness and my vulgarity, maybe that's changing a little bit in some different industries. But for folks, if you're a leader and have these blind spots, do you realize it? Maybe some folks don't realize it. Can you talk a little bit about like, how does somebody address blind spots as a leader on the ones that they are aware of, or can you compare them to the ones that they're just oblivious to?
There's a professor at MIT. His name is Junot Diaz, and the quote is, "We all have blind spots, and they look just like us." We don't recognize our own blind spots because it's like if the sun's at your back, you see your shadow. You can't see anything else. All you see is the outline of your right. You don't see anything else. So we're all oblivious to our blind spots. The difference is, do you have people who are in your circle who are going to tell you when you're you'll forget, right? If you're being a dumbass, somebody going to call you out and say, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" So, but part of that comes from creating a culture of feedback. Being willing to take feedback. In too many organizations, we think of feedback as a supervisor to employee or manager to employee process. We don't think about feedback in the other direction. And most managers or leaders, once they get to that position, they figure like, I don't need to get feedback. I've been promoted. They keep promoting me, right? What kind of feedback do I need? That's all the feedback I need. I keep getting promoted. I keep getting a raise, even though they may be completely ineffective in terms of how they lead their teams, how they lead their people. So I would say that the big piece is creating that sense of the ability to give feedback. And that comes from a sense of trust as well, right? You have to create that ability for people to speak up, for them to voice their concerns without fear of retribution. And I think that is, that's the key. That's the key for any organization. That ability to give and receive feedback, unbelievably critical.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All
right. No.
Moment of silence number 3, because creating a culture of feedback.
Yeah.
And I love what you're describing, Michael, where it's not necessarily like, top down, that like, how do you create that culture of like positive, like Damon, you want the friend where you go out to lunch and like, there's a piece of lettuce in your teeth. Like I want, hey, Kurt, you got a booger hanging there. Like you want that friend, right? That can point out your blind spots. And you're making great points, Michael, because like if something's been working for many years, kind of definition of insanity, like, geez, I keep getting promoted. People seem to like me. They keep paying me. I must be doing something right. I'm getting some different advice here. I don't know if I take that advice and risk because this is working, so like it can be a little bit of a delicate challenge, right?
Yeah. And it part of it is like a sense of humility, right? It's like as we and it's probably happened to all of us, but as we start to move up within our careers, that sense of humility in many cases gets stripped away because those bad habits, or those, not always bad, but they get reinforced. And more often than not, we're not open to hearing different perspectives. Right. I was at a conference recently, and the keynote speaker was talking about the opposite of being an innovator is being an expert. And I wish I could remember her name, because I would love to attribute it to her. But anybody who would like to know who it was, if you ping me on LinkedIn, I will find her name for you. But in my world, where I deal with a lot of technical leaders, they see themselves as experts because that's the way they grew up. That's the way the industry was, right? Why would we change things? We've always done it this way. It's like it's working, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when you start to look at the bigger picture, the more global picture of, right, if you've got low unemployment and you're struggling to find people, and right, all those things that are happening in the industry, and there's more coming, right? You can't keep doing the same thing. Yep. and expecting a different outcome.
Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Expertise is the enemy of innovation. I'm summarizing, perfect is the or what? Anyway, I'm going to butcher.
And perfect being the enemy of the good.
Yeah. So done is better than
Yeah.
Damon,
and you said this too about humility. Humility gets stripped away. Man, that is so critical. I mean, to recognize this when you're younger, because you move into that first management position and that just kind of chinks away at that. You think you need to know more, you're going to be able to do. And, this humility, I think the more you can keep it, the better culture you create, because when you get to the point that feedback and everyone around you is comfortable with giving you feedback and giving each other on the team feedback, and we get this positive flow, right? Because it's much better, because as you say, experts stifle innovation because we already know, right? I'm an expert. I already know. Listen to me, what I do. And when you can come at it with a sense of humility and go, hey, we need to do this. Here's my idea. What do you guys think? What do you people think? Let's put this together and better. Because this is just my initial. And I can't tell you how many companies that you probably see this as well. You walk in there and they look at you with a blank stare because they may have never been asked that before.
Yeah, it happens on a frighteningly too often. And I think that we're all old enough. Remember the movie Philadelphia with Denzel Washington?
Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks.
Plays the lawyer, and he's got this disarming way in the movie, and it repeats a number of times where he says, "Explain it to me. Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old," right? Because the simpler somebody can explain it, the more likely that somebody's gonna be able to understand it. And that's, we get into that cycle as well in technical spaces of, like, we love to use jargon. We love to use terms that no one outside of the industry knows. We love to use acronyms. Right. And when you, as a leader and a manager, when you start to say, explain to me your thinking, right? Tell me how you got to this process, this solution. And that humility, that need, that ability to let somebody else shine, to take some credit, right? Because getting credit is like the death knell for in lots of organizations. I often counsel people about, especially leaders, about thinking about things in terms of hard opinions, soft opinions, or no opinion at all. And sometimes, right, we're in industries where you need to have it's got to be a certain way, right? In manufacturing, in construction, there's got to be a certain sequence, and you can't deviate from it. It's compliance kinds of things, right? You can't, right? Safety, that kind of stuff. Soft opinions, right? Here's where we need to get to, explain to me how you want to do it. And if, as a manager or leader, if the person can come up with a rational, reasonable way to get to that end result, step back, let them do it. Because all of a sudden you have empowered them, you've brought them in closer to you, as opposed to saying, yeah, great idea, but we're going to go with this in this other direction. So that soft opinion idea concept of it brings people closer in. It strengthens your team as opposed to sort of, keeping them at arm's length. And then the last part, no opinion. If they can get to the end result and you go, listen, here's what we need. We got to do it by this day. I don't care how you get there. As a manager, step back, figure out what the check-in points are, and then be done. But that's the challenge with a lot of people in terms of delegation and giving up control and trust, and there's a whole host of things that are tied up into that.
Damon, are you on mute?
Oh, I am. The other thing, the awesome thing about this is it works at home too.
Hey, and that's coming. We got 3 guys on here over.
Yeah. Long term. I mean, you look at hard opinions. That's very few things at home.
And hey, we've got some other comments.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull some of these up.
Yeah, well.
And I know we're going to be winding down, guys. Boy, if you're just coming in, Inger's here. Inger, happy Friday, Valentine, guys. Thank you. Ahmed had a really nice comment here. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're just coming in, please.
Valentine.
And do yourself a favor, go back and get a replay on this, because Michael just dropped so many value bombs here. And so, Mike, I have so much more I want to talk to you, and I want to be mindful of your time. I know we're coming into stretch. I wanted to talk to you if we could go. I have 2 more questions.
Yep, I'll go quick.
I wanted to talk about, we've got to have him back. And of course, we want to get Deb on the program, because Deb is a powerhouse, Damon. She's like just crushing it on YouTube with just incredible, powerful YouTube videos, extremely instructional. Michael, let's go here. You are a fierce educator. You do cohorts. You and Deb, your wife, have courses on Udemy. Again, connect with Michael on LinkedIn. You want to check out the classes that he's offering on Udemy. You guys are absolutely just killing it. And you just got a little taste of past half hour, 45 minutes of just wealth of information and knowledge. Michael, what was in it that as an entrepreneur that you found it so important to be that educator, and how do you bridge that gap with your clients?
So I think that, for me, I recognized that there was this huge gulf, right? It's not a gap, right? A gap is the distance between the train platform and the car, right? It's about that wide. That's a gap. In certain industries, it's a gulf of lack of knowledge, lack of training, right? So there was this, I recognized there was this ability to help people, right? It was, as much as it was a business, it was really, this ability to help people achieve their goals, right? Which I guess we were supposed to be talking about, right, in terms of goals, but helping them realize and actualize what they wanted to achieve. And no one can do it alone, right? You need people around you. You need support. You need other people who have either done it before, have different opinions, different thought processes. And it was just, I found it was just lacking in the industry. So, right. So that was sort of the opportunity for me to come in, work with people, leverage my sort of natural interests and abilities, and help them start to, and help them start to grow. So for small business owners, I still consider myself a small business owner. For many of them, they got into it. Some of them don't even remember why they got into it. But for some, it's about being able to buy a house for the first time, right? First one in their generation, first one in their family to buy a house, to be able to send their kids to college without them graduating with massive student loan debt. It could be as simple as like, I want to buy a new washer and dryer for my house, right? So whatever those goals are, whatever's important to them, being able to help them sort of understand that, and then start to go after it with a little bit more intention, not randomly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Last question. Partners in marriage, partners in life, partners in business. What advice do you have for our friends, listeners out there? How, if they're considering going into business with their spouse, or maybe they already are, how do you and Deb make it work so well?
so we make it work because we've sort of got division of labor. It's a little bit of separation of church and state.
Division of labor and division of love.
That would help.
Yeah. So I run the business side, right? And you'll get around at some point, and she will joke about the fact that I've got to like drag her up to my office to talk about any of the finances, any of that stuff. She has no interest. She likes to work with clients and just be out. So we do have sort of separation of responsibilities. We are constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. And the tendency could be that you're just working 24/7. And I think for us, we are conscious of the fact that 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever it may be, pretty much work goes away and we return back to normal life. To being a married couple as opposed to being business partners. And I'll give you a quick example. This past week, Deb was in New York. She just came back last night, and I came up to my office. I was working. I had workshops all week this week, and I set up my computer, and I get a text message. She's like out walking our dog, and she goes, "Do you have time for breakfast this morning?" Now that never happens ordinarily, but I look around, I go, yeah, I can make that happen. Nice. So we went to breakfast. We came, we took our time. We didn't rush ourselves. That's the thing about being your own boss, about being an entrepreneur, is you do set your own schedule. If you are constantly in it to chase the money, you're missing all these other opportunities that are out there. So my advice is, if you want to work together as a couple, understand where those separations are, right? When do you go apart? When do you come back together to work? When do you lean on your business partner for advice? And it happens in both directions, right? So and we are totally open about, I can be honest with her and go, I have no earthly idea what I'm doing here or why they're asking me to do this, but I need you to help me out here. And she's, she is always there. So
all right.
Yeah.
Dave, I feel guilty. Like Michael, this was like a total coaching session right now.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was just so good. There's so many recaps. We talked about the blind spots. You talked about just really having that fierce humility, educating, coming in with that educating mindset of building that, the trust. You've talked about integrity. You talked about being the accidental entrepreneur. And again, there was just so many. I have a full page of notes here.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. I have one last question that I want to ask, Damon.
This is the toughest one. You ready?
Know, Damon, any
No.
Any feedback?
We have to get to this question. The one thing that you said that I think that everybody should listen to here, if you're a leader, explain to me your thinking. I've never used that before, because that will pull people in, because if they want to do something and you're just wondering more about it, explain to me your thinking. I wrote that down. It just hit home. But let's get to the question.
All right. Hey, we got a couple more. Listening. Inger says, hey, so many mic drops, Mike. Way to go.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Right, Michael, are you hanging on to the desk again? Because this might be as important as the Thurman Munson question, right?
Yeah. Okay. I think so.
Michael, the Yanks are playing. Okay, Yankees, for any of folks overseas. Yankees, it's a American baseball team, right? So New York Yankees are playing baseball, and it's the bottom of the ninth. Okay, they are playing their favorite team, the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox. It's bottom of the ninth. It is home game, Yankee Stadium. Guy on second base. Okay, tie score. There's 2 outs. Guy on second base. Aaron Boone looks down on the bench and says, hey, Michael, get up there and hit in the winning run, will you? I've got dinner reservations. I've got to get out of here. Okay. You grab your bat. You're strolling up to the plate. There's a guy on second, 2 outs. We need the winning run. You're walking up to the plate. What is your walk-up song?
Ooh. I wasn't expecting that.
Yes.
So, what's my walk-up song? So I have to. There's probably 2 that come to mind. only because I'm a Yankee fan.
That's right.
One is Enter Sandman.
And
Mariano Rivera.
Metallica. So if you're a Yankee fan, right? All right, that's a good one. What's the other one?
And I'm not really a Metallica fan, but Enter Sandman.
Yep.
And the other one was Paul O'Neill's walk-up song, which was Baba O'Reilly from The Who.
Baba O'Reilly. All right. Ingrid, that's another mic drop moment right there. Baba O'Reilly and Enter Sandman. Those are two.
Yeah.
If you're under the age of whatever, just Google them, right? Baba O'Reilly by The Who.
You'll be all right.
Sam has a great rendition of it. So, all right, those are two great answers, Michael. Dude, you pass. You got an A+ on those two right there. So,
all
right.
I feel relieved now. I can get off my Friday.
Now you can just go call Deb and take her out to dinner tonight and celebrate. We had a great jam session. Damon, takeaways?
Just thanks so much for being here today, Michael. It's just incredible. And I want to tell everybody listening though, go back to the beginning of this. There were so many things in here. You want to really think about ways of getting things done, helping to motivate people. You had so many good mic drop moments. Thanks.
And Michael, developing practical solutions, dude, like we've got to have you back. And
you got a minute.
The big takeaway, again, everything you mentioned, integrity, creating that culture of feedback, creating that culture of just, healthy conversations. I know it's cliche. Everybody's saying it now. And we're using the word empathy a lot, but boy, when you can just practice it and just create that environment and just, Michael, I cannot express my thanks to you as a friend for you sharing what you did on the show here today. And I feel so privileged just to be in your circle. It's just like, I feel I'm a iron sharpens iron. I feel I'm a better dad and a better person because of you. And I appreciate you. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. This was totally fun, right? It's great just having a conversation, right? It's like, this is what we do.
This is what we do. So, all right. Any last words of wisdom, Michael, that you want to share with everybody? Connect with you on LinkedIn. Any other?
Connect with me on LinkedIn.
Follow Deb on YouTube, right?
Oh, right. You can find my wife on YouTube. You can follow her on LinkedIn. Yep. Radical curiosity. Be curious. Be curious.
That's Mike. That was like moment of silence number 10. So, all right, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for everybody that joined us that didn't comment. And we want to tell you how much we appreciate you week in, week out. Damon, we have another amazing guest on Monday. Man, we're going to be jamming about LinkedIn for manufacturers. I like to say to everybody, be someone's inspiration. Just go out this weekend and be someone's inspiration, just like Michael was for us. Damon, take it away, brother.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Michael, for being here today. And again, as Kurt says, thanks to everyone that listened week in and week out. We're just so happy that we can get people like Michael stopping by, sharing the wisdom like today. Just so many mic drop moments that we get. And thanks to you that are listening out there, dropping all the comments. Man, we had a lot of good comments this week. A lot of people listening. And those of you that don't comment, hey, that's great. Just listen. Get back to the beginning of this, though. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back again, as Kurt says, on Monday with another great guest, and we'll keep them coming. Thanks, everyone.